All right, let's take you to Nazareth now, where we believe that Pulemab is addressing the media ahead of that all-important meeting.
Mkondo Wesizwe, the spear of the nation, which was the military wing of the African National Congress, existing today as a military veterans formation of MK. So, of course, it is, and we hope that as we meet in this National Executive Committee, we will be reminded that President Mandela held too much to the unity of the ANC. We owe the unity of the African National Congress to President Mandela and this generation. And in remembering him, we're going to make sure that the National Executive Committee concludes being united and going out to champion a renewal program. But just again to brief you of how we are going to proceed today. We had our National Working Committee meeting. We had our National Working Committee meeting yesterday. The President attended that Working Committee meeting, presented his own political overview, and requested to be recused upon conclusion. The National Working Committee, in its own wisdom, agreed that he should be recused because discussion around the Section 28 report revolved around the person of the President as well. And as is practice in the ANC, when reports are being discussed, which deals with a comrade, an individual cadre, we usually allow them to be recused from such, so that discussions could happen openly, fairly, and all of that. You know, without people being worried that I'm unable to say this because Pule is in the meeting. So we've done it before with others, so that we do not create an impression that there were separate conditions created for the President of the African National Congress. We do it all the time. When we discuss Integrity Commission's reports, individuals who are affected by those reports are usually asked to be recused from such sittings. Those of you who covered our past National Executive Committee would have witnessed this. The national chair, as well as Comrade Thabang Makwetla, would have been recused from that NEC, especially when that item was being discussed. Actually, I remember seeing two SABC journalists outside, Samkele and Mzwandile, at the time when Comrade Goge and Comrade Thabang were outside. So I'm mentioning this for the media to understand. I've seen others wanting to project a picture that the President did not want to sit in the meeting. It's not true, it's not factual. Actually, when he finished, after recusing himself, I took the President, ushered him to come and speak to the media. And he indicated again why he could not sit in the meeting. So we're expecting the President to attend this National Executive Committee. He will give the overview. The National Working Committee will place it before the NEC to consider recusing the President. If the NEC, out of its own wisdom, makes a different determination that the President should sit throughout the meeting, that's a decision that they will make themselves. But I can tell you now that we are carrying on with the program of the NEC as we had planned. So that's where we are. By lunchtime, depending on where we'll be on the program, we'll bring the Treasurer General to come and do a doorstop with yourselves after you will have done the cutaways of our National Executive Committee.
Is that the President arriving there, Mr. Mab?
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm facing this direction. So it's quite possible. Remember, when apologies
All right, those are live visuals there from Nasrec. We do see that the president has indeed arrived. Phala Phala was actually intimating such that he would indeed be present at the meeting today. A very important meeting today. One item on that agenda to discuss that Section 89 panel report. You would have heard that from Pule even explaining, if you would have heard when he held that impromptu briefing with the media, just explaining the president's absence in the NWC meeting yesterday, stating that they excused him because they wanted to deliberate on his matter. It is a personal matter relating to him and his fate, so they wanted to deliberate without him in that particular room. But you would have heard thereafter, and you would have seen yesterday, that the president then did briefly address the media. So he was present within the vicinity, but most certainly not present in the meeting when the NWC was now deliberating. More people expected today. The NEC will deliberate, as stated, that Section 89 report. Quite a lot expected. Even reports, early reports suggesting that the president's detractors will be mounting a serious fight today. We do know that the NWC yesterday resolved that MPs should not adopt that report. There will be now a final decision made by the NEC, and then what will be expected there is a line of march for MPs, whether it will be to close ranks as the ANC, as we've often known them to, or perhaps to allow them to vote with their conscience. That will all be determined today. Very, very big story that we're tracking for you today. All right, it seems we do have our senior reporter, Siphamandla Goge, on the line for us. Siphamandla, that impromptu briefing by Phala quickly interrupted when we saw the president's convoy just arriving. So indeed, he will be there. Very difficult day, I must say, for him, because everybody will openly express their views on that report relating to his conduct insofar as Phala Phala theft is concerned.
Absolutely, yes, that is the case. It's going to be a very big and long day for the ANC today. We've just witnessed the arrival of ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. Ndabambe is showing you the motorcade. The president has just been ushered inside here, and I think over there arriving is NEC member Enoch Godongwane. If I'm able to see properly, these are some of the NEC members that continue to arrive here. The meeting was set to get underway at 10 o'clock. The president just arrived now around about 10:15, so it tells you that the meeting will probably get underway any minute now. And once the meeting gets underway, they will deliberate on one agenda item really, which is on the agenda, and that is the issue of the Section 89 panel on sorry my brother. Okay, we are being ushered on the other side by the security, and then I think former President Thabo Mbeki is arriving here. Sorry about that. Pardon our shaky visuals. Former President Thabo Mbeki is arriving. Ndabambe will show you these visuals of former President Thabo Mbeki arriving here at Nasrec, and he's attending this special NEC meeting of the African National Congress that will discuss the Section 89 Parliament, or rather the Section 89 panel report on Phala Phala over President Cyril Ramaphosa. Yes, indeed, that's former President Thabo Mbeki who's inside this motorcade that is arriving here. Our viewers would recall that he's the one who reportedly told the NEC meeting that, well, and I need to tell him something, and it seems as if his advice that the president must attend today's NEC meeting has indeed been achieved, because he reportedly told NEC meeting that, well, where's the president? I need to tell him something, and we assume that that something will have to do with the way forward here. Remember, in the context of former President Thabo Mbeki, he's the one a few weeks ago who asked ANC members to say, should there be a negative finding against President Cyril Ramaphosa, there is former President Thabo Mbeki walking inside that NEC meeting. He asked the question, On the eve of the conference, behind former President Thabo Mbeki's NEC member Lindiwe Sisulu, who was a presidential hopeful, who has said that she's still in the running, and I think Tony Yengeni will be arriving shortly. Lingendabambe will stay with those red carpet visuals there. I see some NEC members wearing a white cap. So former President Thabo Mbeki asked the question, in the event that there is a negative finding by this Section 89 panel, what do we do? That's the question that they will have to answer today. They laughed at him when he asked that question a few weeks ago, but today they cannot afford to laugh. It's a serious matter. They need to deal with it. They need to find a way of coming with a resolution. The National Working Committee meeting of the ANC yesterday resolving that, well, members of the ANC will be given a party line to vote against the adoption in Parliament of that Section 89 panel report. But the final decision here lies with the National Executive Committee, which is the highest decision-making body in between conferences. The National Working Committee is a structure that is responsible for the day-to-day running of the organization. The NEC is the highest decision-making body in between conferences. Whatever comes out of this meeting, whether they will ask President Ramaphosa to resign, whether they will close ranks and defend him and give their caucus members in Parliament a party line which says vote against the adoption of this Section 89 panel report, it remains to be seen. We'll only find out once the meeting wraps up, but expect fireworks inside that meeting. There are those who are gunning for President Ramaphosa's head. There are those who are vigorously defending him. It's going to be a very long day, but one thing for sure, this matter has divided the already divided and weakened African National Congress.
Now, speaking of Thabo Mbeki, that council was clearly a council that was ignored when he called on them to perhaps better prepare for that eventuality if the panel were to find that he does have a case to answer to. Because if we're to judge by what we saw this weekend, clearly the ANC was not prepared. If at one point they're calling a special NEC meeting, 30 minutes later they abort that meeting, they decide that not everybody has processed the report, clearly speaking of an ill-prepared party.
Ill-prepared, but some people may argue that in politics nothing is just a coincidence. It could be that it was chaos by design, if I were to label as such, as Lingendabambi shows you. Mam Mildred Oliphant and Ruth Pengu, NEC members, they arriving. Mam Mildred Oliphant wearing something yellowish behind her is Ruth Pengu, NEC members arriving for this meeting. So yes, ill-prepared, but it's strange because if you look at it organizationally, you can't tell me that all officials of the ANC and all NEC members do not understand that the way things are done in the ANC, any pending matter or issue has to go through the officials first, then goes to the National Working Committee, then be referred to the NEC as the last highest decision-making body structure. And I don't understand how ANC officials could get such a basic thing wrong. Hence, I'm convinced that it was chaos by design. You buy time, allow the president to process this matter. This chaos of having these back-to-back meetings over the weekend, you give the president time to deal with the matter politically, but also you give him time for his legal representatives to draft their papers that they will file in court. Remember, they intend to apply for a review. They are going to put through that review application because the president is challenging this. He is taking it on judicial review. So if you have this chaos of meetings that will be postponed and rescheduled, you are giving I think that's Dr. Zweli Mkhize arriving there. He is a presidential hopeful and also nominated. He has received the second highest number of nominations after President Cyril Ramaphosa. Dr. Zweli Mkhize walking in there. So this confusion that we saw over this weekend, it was not by just a sheer mistake or coincidence. It was chaos by design, so that the president figures a legal strategy, which is to take this on judicial review, but politically you give his allies a chance to continue fighting, to caucus, regroup, close ranks and have a position and lobby other NEC members to say when the time comes for that NEC meeting to finally sit, please defend the president at all costs. You are not defending the president, you are defending the ANC. Those who are against that are saying there is no way out of this. The president is delaying the inevitable. At some point he will have to go. His political allies are saying it's a question of managing the possible transition. When and how is very important.
Speaking about managing that transition, we have not necessarily got confirmation that indeed there were talks suggesting that perhaps the president could identify somebody that could actually continue and perhaps protect the gains that he has made in government, that all of his supporters could probably rally behind a particular individual if the president were forced to actually step down.
That has been one of the talking points here, to say what do they do in the event that the president finally steps down. Those who support him have strongly argued that if he resigns now, he will throw the entire core and his slate into chaos, because they will need to find a candidate barely weeks before the conference, and they will need to lobby other provinces. Remember, slates are done and dusted, nominations have been done. Yes, people could still be nominated on the floor. They need to meet a certain threshold for their names to pass that nomination and make it onto the ballot. So all those considerations politically, if President Cyril Ramaphosa goes, his entire core, his entire faction and slate will be in disarray, because it will simply mean they will have to they will have to let go of that presidency position and hope that the national chairperson Gwede Mantashe will be elected, that the candidate for Secretary General Fikile Mbalula will make it, and all those who support the president will make it. In a highly contested conference of the ANC, nothing is guaranteed up until the votes are announced. If you want proof and evidence of that, go back to 2017 when Cyril Ramaphosa's allies and supporters thought they had it in the bag with the position of the Secretary General, only to find out that Ace Magashule staged an upset and they produced what is known as the zebra slate. So if President Ramaphosa goes, his forces will be in deep trouble in terms of the candidate for the presidency. Hence, there is another talk which says, take this thing on judicial review. By time, let's go to Parliament and give our caucus a mandate to vote against the adoption of the report. Let's go to the conference. If you are lucky, you emerge there, you are re-elected. After being re-elected, then you can consider resigning as the President of the Republic, so that if you resign, as we see NEC member Togo Didiza there arriving, if you resign as the President of the Republic, whoever would have been elected Deputy President of the ANC will then have to take over from you and become the President of the Republic. At least that way, we as the caucus or the core of President Cyril Ramaphosa have got political power at Luthuli House, where the President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, will go if he's re-elected, and the Deputy President runs the affairs of the state. So you still have political power. That's their strategy while this judicial review is still underway.
No, some very interesting developments. We'll leave it there for now. Siphamandla, that's senior reporter Siphamandla Goge, stationed outside Nasrec, just giving us live visuals there as most NEC members start making their way inside.